as it finishes Hotspur 3, Atletico Madrid 2. Of course, it being Tottenham, Igor Tudor's first victory in charge, ends with a defeat overall.
Oh, no.
What do you want to say about this?
Look, I'll be honest. Spurs needed to go out of this competition. They just needed to get out of it because they're not good enough to go any further.
Barca in the next round.
Yeah, they better pray that they're out of this competition. What I've seen, this is the only carrot I can dangle for Spurs. What I've saw at Anfield and what I've saw tonight would give me greater hope than I had over 7 days ago about potentially staying in the Premier League. That's the carrot I would dangle. That was two better performances, and I think the Igor Tudor needs to go. He's probably gone away for now. They got Nottingham Forest at the weekend. So that's kind of where I am with Spurs. They're not good enough to be any further in this competition. They may not even be good enough to stay in the Premier League. But these two games, I think if I was a player at Spurs or a fan at Spurs, would give me some hope. If I can replicate the Liverpool and the Atleti second leg, I have a fair chance of staying up. But in terms of this competition, I'm afraid they are the Europa League winners, and that's kind of at best where they are. They're out of their depth. Even if they finished, what was it, fourth in this crazy league stage when they got into the, you're looking at me, I think they finished fourth or something.
Top eight.
That was a red herring, wasn't it? They're not up there, and yeah, they got what they deserved in the end, which was to go out.
Robbo, a lot of theories going round. Obviously, 6 Premier League sides made it through to the round of 16. 2 are left standing now as we enter the quarter-finals. Is there a theory? Can you generalise here, or is each team's exit a separate case study?
I think it's a case study. You know, when you look at the performances of Chelsea, they lost their discipline in the away game against PSG. They lost their discipline and shape, and I don't think the manager knew what he was doing when he set up the team yesterday against PSG. So you've got to criticise what was going on there. When you saw Spurs, they were going through a really bad spell, and they were short of confidence, short of enthusiasm, short of knowing what they were doing from the manager's point of view when they lost away at Atletico Madrid, but they played much better tonight. And Newcastle, when they had to defend today, they were all over the place. So I think there was individual performances by the teams, but I suppose it's a worry, and it's a good thing that the Premier League isn't held up as this massive league that is much better than everybody else, because I don't think that's the case. It's got a better strength in depth. But when you're still looking at some of the best teams, you've got Bayern Munich, you've got PSG, you've got Barcelona, and you've got Real Madrid, some of the best teams in Europe at the moment. And they're not in the Premier League. So the Premier League's not this all-conquering league, that's for sure.
It was easy, though. Like for the majority of these sides up against Premier League teams, they didn't have to get into fifth gear to beat them.
It was certainly less competitive than we thought it was going to be, to the point to where you start seeing the aggregate score line and you kind of go, oh, wait a minute. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even competitive. So I suppose Newcastle would say, but we were right there at home. But see, it's the same conversation that Manchester City and Pep Guardiola were trying to frame, that we were right there. We were just missing a service here or a finish there. And then you look at the aggregate score and you go, no, you weren't right there. And you're only focusing on your angle, on your perspective. You're not focusing on the fact that if you go back to Real Madrid-Manchester City first leg, if Vinny scores his penalty, it would have been 4-0, and we're not even having a conversation about the second leg. If you're Newcastle today and you focus on what you did in the first half and you ignore what the second half was, which was a humiliation, you're not seeing the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that these teams outside of Liverpool and Arsenal, they were not even competitive in their matchups. Yesterday was the best example, I thought, was PSG against Chelsea. It really looked like there was one team that is destined to be in the latter stages of the competition, and another team who was pretending to be a Champions League team. PSG far better. And that's what we can say about Barcelona and Newcastle, far better. That's the same thing that we can say about Atletico Madrid, that perhaps is not far better, but significantly better in the moments that matter against Spurs. And if you start saying that across the board, then you kind of go, this is far easier, far more straightforward than we thought it was going to be, and that it should have been for these Premier League teams that are supposed to be at the most competitive league in the world.
the Premier League for 20 years plus now has been the greatest marketing machine in this sport. And at times it's had some of the best product, and at times it does not. And at the moment, underneath Arsenal, the underbelly of the Premier League isn't particularly good in terms of quality. People might see the chase behind Arsenal as quite tight, and they may address that as quality. But the Championship's tight, League One's tight. A lot of leagues around the world are tight underneath the big teams, but it doesn't mean they have quality. This competition brings out some of the stupidest, thickest people that follow this sport. And I don't just mean in social media, because when England gets 6 teams in the Champions League, they all pop up and say, this is absolutely brilliant. And all these people in social media, this is the part of the Premier League. And not just that, people that do our job, they come out and go, greatest league in the world. And I think, what did I say to you? when everybody's left standing, all the punches are thrown, and I include Liverpool in this, Arsenal will be the only team standing, in my opinion. 1. And by the way, they're good enough to go all the way. But people should never, ever, ever get carried away. If you watch a product, if you watch the Bundesliga, if you watch La Liga, if you watch the English Premier League, you should understand that because something is tight, and the Premier League race is not tight, but if it's tight to get in the top 4, if it's tight to get in the European places, that doesn't equate to quality. And I think we've seen that. We've seen the English teams, as Ali said, it's not just the defeats, it's the manner of the defeats, it's the embarrassment of the defeats. I'm not surprised Newcastle are out and got a pasting. I'm not surprised Tottenham are out, got a bit of a pasting. I'm not surprised Chelsea are out and got a bit of a pasting. I am surprised a little bit that City managed it in the way they did because of Real Madrid's issues. And yet, with all those issues that Arbeloa has and his inexperience at that level against one of the greatest coaches that's coached certainly in the last 10 or 15 years, Real Madrid still made easy work of it. So I really feel that, I think at the moment in the Premier League in England, there's too many dull games, there's too much set-piece talk, there's too much physicality talk, and less talk about real quality and entertainment. And you can look at all the other leagues, and we don't watch great games every week in La Liga, but I dare say when the big teams are playing, we see a lot better games with a lot more technical analysis and technical quality than we're seeing in English football at the moment. And I think that's why all these teams are one of the reasons a lot of these teams fell by the wayside.
So why is the richest league in the world coming up short, Robbo?
Well, at the moment, too many teams are keeping the ball for the sake of keeping the ball.
Yep.
We don't see teams like Barcelona. We're not seeing Barcelona's movement off the ball, the ability to play it forward for individuals to go past people. We're seeing too many teams thinking playing out from the back is great, and this is what football is all about. This is the fashion. We've got to play out from the back. They get so far, they break the line, and then they go back again. And we see 15 passes across the pitch. At times, the Premier League is boring. And there's not enough forward momentum. There's not enough individual brilliance in the top third of the field. And that's what you need to have excitement in football. You need the ball in the top third of the field as much as you can and players that can go past people. That's coming out the Premier League at the moment.
Do you know what, Robbo? I honestly believe this, that there's too much fear in the Premier League.
Right.
At the moment, Arsenal have a fear of, and I understand this, they have a fear of not getting the job done to an extent. And that's kind of understandable. But there's too much fear and emphasis on the other teams. There's a fear of relegation. There's a fear of the financial hit. There's a fear of getting the sack constantly because of the money involved. And I think if you look at Hansi Flick as an example, there is no fear about Barcelona. There is no fear about how they go about it. There's no fear about Bayern Munich. Yeah, they might get the sack. I mean, everybody gets the sack in this sport when bad results come. But I just think there's a huge fear in England to go and express yourself because of the consequences. Yeah. Whereas one or two other
Sorry,
clubs...
Craig, can I just cut in there?
Sure.
Can I just cut in there?
Yeah.
I was talking to a very good coach who I worked with, John Cartwright. You might remember him from years ago. He was the England youth team coach. He was an Arsenal coach. And I met him at the weekend, and he said he loves Pep Guardiola when he was at Barcelona and when he first went to Man City. He said he's got it wrong these days. He said the centre-halves touch the ball 78 times each, and their centre-forward, who could be the best centre-forward in the world, touches it 8 times in a half. How can that be right? And that's what we're seeing with Barcelona. Their front three are touching it as much as the back players because they're getting it into the forward areas more often. And Gyökeres, Arsenal go and buy Gyökeres. How many times does he touch the ball in the game? You want your centre forward and your front players touching it more than you do your defenders. In England, in the Premier League at the moment, it's the other way round.
And the byproduct of that, if you don't have your most talented players, who usually are the attacking players, the players from the midfield area to the front area, if they're not getting involved, the byproduct of that is that the top-end matchups, they cancel each other out. The top-end teams in the Premier League, when you watch those games and you're building up the whole week, and we're doing previews coming up to this Saturday, this Sunday, here we go, we're going to have this conversation, and then the game comes around, it's... And if it happens one, you're kind of, all right. Happens two, you're like, okay. But it seemed to be the trend right now that the top-end matchups of the Premier League are unwatchable. That's not good for the product, and that's not good for anybody. The teams, the players, the league, and it shows when they play against top-end opposition. In this competition, they're exposed.
You talk about superstars, you talk about who's going to be the top player in La Liga, Lamine Yamal, Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., Elise, Harry Kane, Luis Diaz in the Bundesliga, Declan Rice. And I know Rodri won the Ballon d'Or, but he was playing for a great Manchester City team then, and I think that kind of sums it all up. That's my opinion. It will be Barcelona against
very valid
Atletico
opinion,
Madrid
Dan.
in the quarter-finals. Of course, these teams have met each other 3 times already, and there were 11 goals between them in those 3 ties. Of course, we saw that brilliant 2-legged Copa del Rey tie in which Atleti won 4-0. Barca almost forced it to extra time. They're going to play each other 3 times in 10 days because the return La Liga leg as well will take place in April.
Where's the first game? I should know that. Is the first leg in what it says there, Barcelona Atleti?
Yeah, but that might be wrong. That might be wrong. Let's think. Who was in the top 8? Barcelona.
Yes.
So Barcelona will have the second leg.
I've really never looked into this.
Is this how you think?
Yes, that's how I think.
Leg thing.
Or Atleti in the top 8 as well. Oh,
Do
no.
you think Barca would have wanted?
I don't know. As a player, would you prefer to play someone you're familiar with, that you have a history with, that you know what's going to happen?
Yeah.
You can tell me if it's Barcelona or Atleti any time.
I don't know, but I mean, again, if I was Atleti, I'd be hanging my hat on what I did to Barcelona in the first leg of the Copa del Rey semi-final, which was basically, put it to bed, they thought, until Barca came roaring back with that 3-0 victory.
It's Barcelona first. It's at the Camp Nou first. There we are.
See, I think I'd have wanted it the other way around. I think if I finish in the top 8,
yes,
I want the home game second.
Yes.
Really, that's what I would want.
Didn't Atleti finish in the top 8 as well?
Don't know. But that league's...
I think you were on top of the league phase. You were all over it, Craig. Remember the board we had, the list, the standings?
I'll tell you what, when Tottenham get in that top 8, I just started ignoring that whole league process. There was too many teams. But what I'm saying is I would always want the second leg at home to make sure I could go away from home. And I was going to say, sit in and get the job done, but this is Barcelona. It isn't another intriguing one because Atleti know they can't outplay Barca. Right? They cannot. They could play them 100 times. They are not going to outplay them, but they can outscore them.
Yep.
But they have to do it a different way, and they've proven that they can do that. They have absolutely proven that they can do that. However, over the 2 legs, this team, if they continue in the manner in which they are, I just see Barca going through.
Yeah, that second leg of the semi-final of Copa del Rey, where Barcelona were all over Atletico Madrid and had opportunities to win that game. And of course, they did 3-0, but they had opportunities to make it to 4-0, to send it into extra time. They did not take advantage of those opportunities. But I think the feeling from that match for Barcelona is Atletico Madrid feared us here at Camp Nou. And so if indeed the first game is in Barcelona, then it's something that Barcelona must take advantage of. And actually, they could be the ones that killed this thing off, just like Atletico Madrid thought they did in the Copa del Rey semi-final. They could be the ones that jump out to a big lead. They are playing at a tremendously high level right now. And in that stadium, it seems like now there's a connection with the fans. Not the whole stadium is open, but most of the stadium is open. The stadium is crowded. The energy is there. The intensity is there. And this team is flying. And when they get flying, they look like they looked in the second half today against Newcastle. They do that against Atletico Madrid. I think they're going to create chances to score goals.
Robbo.
Well, I don't think Atletico Madrid can play as well as they did in that first half in the Copa del Rey semi-final. They knew exactly how to play against Barcelona. Barcelona made some bad errors. The goalkeeper let one bounce over his foot as he tried to clear it. It was a back pass to him. You're not going to get those sort of that lucky again from Atletico Madrid. Barcelona, I think, over the 2 games will be good enough. They'll score enough goals. They'll give a couple away, but I think they'll play with an intensity that Atletico Madrid just can't match. So I think they'll go through.